Have you ever woken up in the dead of night to strange sounds emanating from your living room? I'm a graphic designer living in the heart of the city, and one unforgettable November night, an unusual noise shattered my sleep. Do you want to know what happened when I encountered unknown voices and the haunting melody of a sinister violin within my own apartment? Stay with me and uncover this chilling story until the end. You won't believe what happened next. I'm a freelance graphic designer living in a quirky loft in the city center. My apartment is on the third floor of a nondescript building, its entrance camouflaged among bustling bars and commercial establishments. A narrow staircase connects only 3 units, accessible through an unmarked door on the street. On that fateful November night, I was deeply engrossed in a crucial project. Hours flew by as I tweaked layouts and retouched images, lost in the digital realm. Near midnight, exhaustion finally took over. After a quick shower, I collapsed into bed, eager for a few hours of restorative sleep before another busy day. The city's nighttime symphony, the distant hum of nearby bars, had become a soothing lullaby over my 3 years here. The constant noise was like urban white noise, helping me relax. I closed my eyes, letting fatigue wash over me, and swiftly drifted off, lulled by the familiar city sounds. I don't know how much time had passed when a sudden, unusual sound pierced my sleep, dragging me back to consciousness. I opened my eyes, suddenly alert, my heart racing as I tried to understand what had awakened me. That's when I realized I was about to live through one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. The digital clock beside my bed read 3:12 a.m. when my eyes snapped open. The room was shrouded in darkness, but something was terribly wrong. Distinct voices echoed from the living room, penetrating the thin walls of my loft. My body froze, my mind struggling to process the situation. Slowly, I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. The voices continued, now accompanied by the chilling, dissonant notes of a violin. It was as if someone was watching a horror movie in my living room, but who and how? I thought of the 2 friends who had keys to my apartment, but quickly dismissed the idea. None of the voices resembled theirs, and they always informed me before dropping by. The reality began to sink in. Strangers had invaded my space. Fear grew inside me like a cold wave. My mind raced through scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. Were they burglars, drunkards who had wandered in by mistake, or something worse? Immobilized, barely daring to breathe, I stayed frozen in bed. The sounds only heightened my distress with each passing second. It was as if I were living one of those true horror stories you read about but never believe could happen to you. There I was, alone, facing one of the greatest fears anyone can have, unknown intruders inside your home. The minutes felt like hours as I remained motionless, waiting for the intruders to leave. But the sounds persisted, alternating between unintelligible dialogues and the eerie violin music. My body trembled, drenched in cold sweat, but I knew I couldn't stay there forever, hiding like a cornered prey. With a racing heart, I made a decision. Slowly, I reached for the bedside table where I kept a gun for protection. The cold metal of the revolver gave me a false sense of security. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. It was time to face whatever was out there. On tiptoes, I left the bedroom. The hallway was bathed in darkness, but a faint light from the living room cast unsettling shadows on the walls. The voices became clearer as I approached. Pressed against the wall, I crept towards the entrance of the living room, the gun tight in my trembling hands. In a swift movement, I burst into the room, ready to confront the intruders. But what I found left me dumbfounded. The room was empty and completely dark. No sign of intruders, no TV playing, nothing. The voices and music had ceased the moment I entered. Confused and even more frightened, I turned on the lights and searched every corner of the apartment. Nothing was out of place, no signs of forced entry. It was as if the sounds had been merely a product of my imagination. But I knew what I had heard. It wasn't a hallucination. I was experiencing a terrifying encounter, worthy of the most spine-chilling horror stories. Exhausted and bewildered, I spent the rest of the early morning hours on watch, unable to fall back asleep. My mind desperately sought a logical explanation for the night's events. When the first rays of sunlight finally pierced through the windows, I decided to investigate further. I went downstairs, determined to check if there were any signs of intrusion. That's when I noticed a light on in my neighbor's film studio, located on the ground floor. Intrigued, I knocked on the door. My neighbor answered, looking as tired as I felt. "Sorry to bother you so early," I began, "but something strange happened in my apartment last night." I explained the situation, watching as his expression changed from confused to horrified. "My God, I'm so sorry," he exclaimed. "I spent the whole night editing my film for the Halloween contest. I must have accidentally paired with your soundbar instead of mine. What you heard was the audio from my horror movie." The realization hit me like a lightning bolt. All the terror, all the anxiety had been caused by a simple technological mistake. I laughed nervously, relieved and embarrassed at the same time. I returned to my apartment, reflecting on the night's events. What started as one of the most terrifying horror stories turned into an anecdote about the dangers of modern technology. I realized that often, our true scary stories have much more mundane explanations than we imagine. As I prepared to finally get some sleep, I couldn't help but smile. That night would certainly become a part of my personal collection of chilling tales, but with a very different ending than I had anticipated. It was a reminder that sometimes the terror we feel is just a trick of our mind, or, in this case, technology.
Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Your support means a lot to us. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe for more updates.